Hey everybody, before we get going in the video, I want to give a huge shout out to Bad Blood 226 for the idea for this video. Without him or her, this video wouldn't even be happening, and let me tell you, I appreciate it more than you will ever know. So let's do this. Hello fellow horror collectors and welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and in this video we're going to be going over the recently released Neca Hannibal Lecter Silence of the Lambs figure and why it's causing so much controversy and stir amongst fans. Where is Neca going to go from here, and what I think they should do going forward with these re-released figures. All of that and a little bit more, but without further ado, let's slice right into it. So first and foremost, anybody looking to pick this figure up, you can get this first at actually Walmart's, over 1,700 Walmarts across the nation, part of Bloody Disgusting's horror fan shop. This is a brand new thing that they're doing. They're bringing more horror collectibles to Walmart's. I think it's a great thing, and that's where you can get this figure right now, so check your local Walmart's. But it will be going to other retailers a little bit later in the year. But let's go ahead and talk about why there's so much controversy surrounding this figure. Now, you may or may not know that many years ago, NECA had a line called Cult Classics. Now, these figures didn't have much articulation. They were very similar to, like, Scream Greats figures from Trick or Treat Studios, but came out much before that line did. So, what's causing all the stir in the community is that when this was announced, when this was the early stages of being promoted and sold to us collectors, we saw the Ultimate Collector's Box, and we all assumed we were getting an Ultimate Hannibal Lecter Silence of the Lamb Anthony Hopkins figure. Unfortunately, that's not what we got. This figure is actually almost a straight re-release, or a retooling, if you will, of the 2006 release NECA Cult Classics figure, and that's what has fans absolutely on edge, and they say that it's lazy and that NECA really missed the ball with this one, and people are really upset about what we actually got. We didn't get a new figure. They didn't add any articulation. It's just a straight-up re-release disguised as an Ultimate figure, and that's where all this controversy and really all the muck is coming from amongst the community. So now that we know where the controversy is coming from and that it's pretty much a straightforward re-release of an old figure that came out in 2006, let's go ahead and talk about the pros that we actually have this figure re-released. Number one is going to be the price. This figure in recent years, or the old school figure, the Cult Classics figure in recent years, has been going for over $100 on eBay. Has recently sold for up to $145 to $150. So now that we have this figure re-released, you can go to a local Walmart or even go on eBay again, or have your buddy, go to a Walmart and find one for you for $34.99. So right there, that is a great pro to having this figure be re-released. Is the price is way down from what it used to be, and that to me is probably the biggest pro in this whole situation. But there's also more pros to come with it. Of course, with it being cheaper, it's way more accessible. Because it's being remanufactured and re-put out in stores, you can get your hands on it much easier. So of course, that's going to be a bigger pro as well. It's more accessible, easier for us collectors to get our hands on. But not only that, the figure itself is a re-release. It's the same sculpt, but here's the cool thing. NECA threw in a couple additional heads that were not with the actual first 2006 release Cult Classics figure. This one actually has extra head sculpts, I believe updated paint application, and from what I can tell by looking at this side by side right here, honestly, I think the face sculpts are a lot better. I think they went in and I think they redid the face sculpts and made them way better than they were in 2006. So you add in the fact that it's cheaper, the fact that it's more accessible, and they threw in a couple extra heads with some updating sculpting. That's actually a really cool thing for NECA to do. So on that end of things, I gotta give them a thumbs up. Major pros. But of course, there definitely is cons in this situation. Moving into the cons about this whole figure, the re-release figure, is simply the fact that it was marketed and presented and it was disguised as an Ultimate figure. It was kind of like pulling the wool over our eyes a little bit. It was never a bigger moment for fans, Hannibal fans, horror collectors to be so high and so juiced out of our minds and like, oh my god, and then be like, oh, okay, we already have that figure. And which leads me to my second con, is the fact that it's, again, marketed as a figure, and yes, it is a figure, but it's pretty much almost a statue. I think only his left arm even moves up and down. I don't think there's any articulation to this figure whatsoever. So calling it a figure in some collectors' eyes is very, very much insulting. I wouldn't personally dig that deep with it. A figure is a figure. We can argue articulation, till the cows come home. It doesn't really much matter. But at the end of the day, it is more of a statue than a figure with no extra articulation. And I think that is a big negative for Neca for this release. I also think that another con with this being re-released the way it was is it came so close to another figure that fans were absolutely buzzing about, and they reused the head sculpts again. And of course, I'm talking about the Ultimate Jigsaw figure. A figure that we were all waiting for so long, and we were just chomping at the bit to get our hands on, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, those heads look familiar. So Neca can do this, but they have to be very careful because they have to do it in moderation. If they keep putting figures out like this, re-release, reusing head sculpts, recycling parts, fans are going to start getting turned off to it, so I definitely think that they have to do this in moderation. But ultimately, what do I think this means for Neca going forward and for collecting going forward, even for figures going forward? At the end of the day, being a collector is part of complaining and getting over it and keep on collecting. It's almost like a rite of passage now. There's going to be a lot of collectors that are going to be over the top, super dramatic. I'm not collecting NECA anymore. You're not getting my money, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. And even if they stop collecting, I don't think this is going to negatively impact NECA, in terms of sales or any real margins that are going to be noticeable. Of course, people are going to come and go all the time when it comes to collecting any brand. I don't care if it's Super 7 Mondo, if it's NECA, if it's Star Ace, if it's Syndicate Collectible, if it's PCS. I don't care what it is. People are going to stop collecting every single day, and that's okay. But here's my idea of what NECA should do going forward. If NECA wants to continue to re-release old cult classic figures, and even figures that aren't cult classics, just old Gremlins or anything like that, I think they can definitely do that, but here's what I would recommend they do. Don't market it, don't promote it, and don't disguise it as an Ultimate figure. Don't even put it in the same packaging as Ultimate figures. NECA has multiple lines: Toonie Terrors, Retro Cloth, Ultimate figures. They're all different. They all got their own style, their own packaging. What they need to do is come out and call it, I don't care what they call it, Cult Classics Return, Resurrected Classics, Classics Comeback, I don't care what they call it, but make it its own separate thing and its own separate line with its own unique packaging. So that way collectors know exactly what they're getting when they go to buy it or pre-order it, and we get an announcement. Hey, this is from the Cult Classics, comeback line, right? So we're going to get an old Jigsaw figure or an old Leatherface figure or something, and we're going to throw a couple extra head sculpts in there, maybe some more accessories or whatever it may be. I'm saying take these figures, put them on their own island, give them their own packaging, make them different, and make a whole different line out of it. That way there's no confusion, there's no misleading about what collectors are buying and what they're going to put on their shelf. That's what I think NECA should do going forward, and what this means for figures like this going forward as well. But of course, I want to thank you all so very much from the bottom of my heart for watching another one of my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. But most importantly, I want to know all of your thoughts. So please do not hesitate to put all of them down below. I will respond to every comment and we'll get some conversation flowing. Don't forget, you can also follow me on Instagram for a more personal look at my life of horror right there. And just one last time, I want to remind you guys that my name is Mike, and this is my design.